Let's talk about the final boss of your history class, the document-based question, or DBQ. It can feel pretty intimidating, right? But what if I told you it's not just an essay, it's a game? And like any game, it has rules, it has strategies, and there's a clear path to winning. Today, we're going to learn how to play. So, is the DBQ some scary monster you have to defeat? Honestly, no, not if you know the secret. You have to stop seeing it as this huge test of everything you've ever memorized and start seeing it for what it really is, a puzzle with a clear set of rules. And the best part? The people who made the game gave us the official playbook, the scoring rubric. It tells you exactly how to earn every single point. So let's break it down. All right, first up, cracking the DBQ code. This is all about knowing the rules of the game. See, every single point on that rubric is yours for the taking, but only if you know what the graders are looking for. So let's open up that playbook and walk through it step by step. Here they are, the 6 points to victory. I want you to think of this like you're storming a castle. First, you lay the groundwork with a solid thesis and some good contextualization. Then, you start climbing the walls using evidence from the documents and, just as important, evidence beyond the documents. And finally, you capture the highest towers with deep analysis and the ultimate prize, complex understanding. Let's go get them. Okay, on to section 2, building your foundation. You know, in any game, a strong opening move is absolutely critical. We're going to focus on the 2 points that set your entire essay up for success, your thesis and your contextualization. First up, the thesis. The rulebook says you need a historically defensible thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. So what does that actually mean? Simple. Don't just repeat the question. You have to take a stand. You need to make an argument, a specific claim that the rest of your essay is going to be dedicated to proving. And just look at the difference here. The losing example, the Columbian exchange involved crops and diseases. Well, yeah, that's a fact. It's true, but it's not an argument. But the winning example, it makes a powerful claim. It argues the exchange transformed economies and reshaped patterns. See? It gives you a roadmap for the whole essay. That's the difference between getting the point and leaving it on the table. Feeling a little stuck? Don't worry, I've got a cheat code for you. This formula right here is a total game changer. It literally forces you to include a time period, an action, and a reason. And that's what builds that line of reasoning the graders are looking for. Seriously, keep this one in your back pocket. It is so useful. Now for that second foundational point, contextualization. This is where you set the stage. You need to describe what else was going on in the world that relates to your topic. Think of it like the opening scene of a movie. What were the bigger forces at play that made this specific event even happen? And you can really see the difference right here. Saying the progressive era happened in the US, well, that tells us almost nothing. It's like putting a pin on a map. But look at the winning example. It paints a picture of industrialization, new cities, and social challenges. It explains the why behind the whole movement. That's what gives your argument real depth. You know, if you're ever struggling to come up with context, here's a super simple brain trick. Just pause for a second and ask yourself, okay, what was going on in the world or in this region that made this specific event possible or even necessary? The answer to that question, that is your contextualization. All right, foundation's built. Now for section 3, mastering the evidence. We've got our strong thesis and our context is set. Now it's time to build our case. This is where we use the clues the game gives us, the documents, and our own outside knowledge to prove our argument. And the magic number you're aiming for is 4. To get the full 2 points for evidence, you have to support your argument using at least 4 of the documents. Think of it as a clear goal to hit. And remember, the key word there is support. You're not just summarizing them, you're using them as proof. And here is another little secret weapon to make sure you're doing it right. This template forces you to go beyond just saying what the doc is about. It makes you state the specific evidence, and then, this is the critical part, connect it directly back to the argument you made in your thesis. Do this for every document and you're golden. Then, you've got to show them what you know with evidence beyond the documents. This is your chance to shine. You need to bring in a specific piece of historical info that's not in the documents, and notice how specific these examples are. The encomienda system, the Wagner Act. These aren't vague ideas. They are specific named terms, events, or laws that directly back up your argument. That's the level of detail you're going for. All right, let's get into the fun stuff. Section 4, unlocking advanced points. We've built our foundation, we've used our evidence, now it's time for the pro-level moves that separate a good score from a truly great one. We're talking about analysis and that elusive complexity point.
The analysis point is all about thinking like a real historian. For at least 2 documents, you have to go beyond what it says and explain why it says it. What was the author's point of view? What was their purpose in creating it? Who was their intended audience? The secret is connecting that why back to your main argument.
Now, this can feel tricky, I get it. So here's a formula that just works. By identifying the author's role, are they a king, a merchant, a revolutionary, you can analyze their perspective. Then you just have to explain why that perspective matters and how it shapes the document, tying it all back to your big argument. And at last, we arrive at the unicorn of the DBQ, the complexity point. This is your reward for showing really deep insight. To earn it, you have to build a bridge from your main argument to something bigger. For instance, if you're writing about the American Revolution, you might compare its causes to the causes of the French Revolution. By showing those connections, you're demonstrating a truly sophisticated understanding of history. Okay, let's bring it all home. Section 5, your winning game plan. We've learned the rules, we've practiced the moves. Now, let's put it all together into a final strategy that'll get you that win on exam day. Look, success under pressure really comes down to managing your time. Whatever you do, don't just jump in and start writing. Take 5 to 7 minutes to plan. Read the docs, figure out your thesis, and map out which documents support which parts of your argument. Then, write for about 45 minutes, and this is non-negotiable, always leave 5 minutes at the end to review your work. So here it is, your entire strategy boiled down to a simple 3-step attack plan. First, plan and outline your argument. Second, write with purpose, using those formulas we talked about to keep you on track. And third, the golden rule. Constantly, and I mean constantly, connect every single piece of evidence back to your thesis. See? The DBQ isn't some monster to be afraid of. It's a game to be played. And now you have the playbook, you have the cheat codes, and you have the strategy. The only question left is, what history will you argue?